Yeah, colour check between the blue and the purple there. Now this is the only pot that actually grew some liverworts, and they came back so quickly. Not many, and they're not wonderful, but it's this pot that has the chunks of paraffin candle wax in it. So, which is I thought was pretty eye-opening. The fact that it's the only pot that actually. So it maintained the liverworts in a dormant state over the summer, and they grew back, really. I've harvested some from this already, about 10 of them. These are the dwindlers, the dregs. I think there's another one around there somewhere. Look, but anyway. So I thought that was pretty. And look at the casuarina. It's red. Remember when I came back from WA? The Sarracenia were growing, and the casuarina in the pot was sort of blood red. Well, it wasn't blood red, but it was quite red. You know, this sort of red, orangey red sort of thing. Anyway, because I said I think the secret's into learning how to grow liverworts, because liverworts don't lie, of course, and all those pots we used to see back in the late 70s and the 80s through the 90s. Festoon with liverworts coming out of commercial places, and I said that's the key. And everyone was, it was always this argument, are they snail eggs in the pot or are they osmocotes? Blah blah blah. Don't look at the liverworts, because the liverworts are the real. And we used to have these eye-opening exchanges with some new European Australians, and they just look at you when you give them the low calcium, blah blah blah. Don't like this, don't like that sort of spiel, and they look at you as if you were lying. And I think we were, in a way, to them, because we didn't know either that in Europe, half the population of liverworts, or European liverworts, are obligate calcicoles. That means they have to grow on limestone. The other half are facultative. In other words, they don't have to, but they would prefer it, and they do grow better if they do have some limestone in the soil. So I set up this pot, which has got a bit of cement in it. I know, a bit of cement in it. People thought I was crazy, but I used to notice whenever you mix the cement with a nitrogenous compound, urea or something like that, it used to go green. Within minutes, it would take on a greener look. So your normal grey Portland cement would become green Portland cement in a way. So I noticed that, and I thought, well, that's a bit strange. It is reacting with nitrogen, and nitrogen is the key element for plant growth. So there might be a connection there somehow. Anyway, it's taken me years to get to the stage where I can actually put some cement in a pot with some Sarracenia and they don't keel over and die. It was a bit of a baptism of fire like that one, but I think the key is to sit it in the pot and let it get flushed through by the rain. So anyway, taking this idea a step further, I've set this pot up, so I'm going to let that go through a rain cycle, which hopefully will be coming tonight or tomorrow. Probably not tomorrow, probably tomorrow, maybe a little bit tonight, mainly tomorrow afternoon, I think. And we'll have maybe a day of rain or a couple of days of rain, and it'll wash through the pot. Then I'll put some plants in. Then we might see some difference. I don't know whether I'll set the pot up later on with half the pot with just plain coir on one side and the sand on the other, and plant plants on either side and see if there is a difference. Because I think there is a problem. It's always peat and sand, and I think the understanding is why sand and why peat, or some sort of material like peat, a brown wood basically, a wood that has nitrogen fixed into it. Coir, peat, bark chips. Newspaper cellulose does have some nitrogen in it, but not as much as the brown woods, you see. And the brown woods also have other things, especially the bark chips. They have other things, because most things excrete things they don't like to the bark, so they'll have other contaminants in there. But I suppose they can slowly get flushed through, or they can be accounted for, amended for, I suppose, in a way. So anyway, so we'll see how we go, but it's not doing too bad. I think I reckon that's going to kick off soon, but I think we can do better, having seen this pot and having seen that pot over here, this one. Yeah, I'll talk about all the other pots in another video later on in the season, once we've had some success, sort of thing. I did a lot of work over summer coming back from WA, and I hardly learned anything. I only learned 2 basic things, so we'll talk about that on another day. As I said, we're starting to make rapid progress, I think. I'm going to crack the answer to why it's always peat and sand, and the liverworts sort of things. I'm actually going to learn the reason why liverworts grow where they do, when they do, and where they do, and why they do. And that's going to be answer to all the CP related weeds and all the other CP related plants like rhubarb. I saw something on YouTube the other night, a nice rhubarb growing in like a loamy soil. You know, no real organics, you know, what they talk about, all this is organic, you know, you've got to build up the soil with organics. This was in like a loamy, silty, sandy sort of soil with no visible organics there at all. I thought, oh, okay, so the story about, you know, them having to have lots of manure and all this thing isn't quite strictly true. So I think, as I said, once you learn to grow liverworts and know why, when, how and where and sort of thing like that, you know, why they grow on limestone and things like that, there's going to be a whole tranche of botany, botanical biology, that's going to open up. And all these stories about, you know, mixing in like a tablespoon of salt into a bucket of water and pouring on these things like rhubarb, horseradish, asparagus, probably gunner, you know, dock, and all these things. You know, the buckwheat. You know, have you noticed there's a lot of plants out there with the word buck in them? You know, they have this extra growth that you see in the. I mean, I always thought it was funny. They always talk about, you know, most plant families are like 97% of them are supposed to be mycorrhizal. There's only 3 plant families are not. There's like the mustard family, which actually purposely repels the things that use due to their excretions, and you can also use these excretions to set up a soil on that sort of basis. But CP, they sort of lump them into saying they're amycorrhizal, and I'm thinking, oh, isn't that a bit strange? You're actually going to go for that statement to say that they're amycorrhizal when all the other plant families in the whole world, you know, millions and millions of plants naturally have this and have evolved to have this, and you're going to say that these aren't. I mean, aren't you putting yourself right out there on a limb? Because if someone turns up to say, yes, we found this one, and look, there it is. It's a macroscopic external mycorrhizae. So by definition, I've got a fungus root. It has to be accepted instantly. If you can show a fungus, an ensheathment on the root run, you have a fungus root, you have a mycorrhizae, bang, end of story. You've won the argument. And of course, it fits in. Well, of course, you know, it just. Now we've only got 98, and now we have 98 families that are mycorrhizal, and we only have 2 that don't. One of those is mustard, and the mustard family, so on and so forth. So now we're only down to 1. I mean, would you stake your career, your fame on saying the total opposite of all these things? I thought that was a bit going out there on a limb. I thought that was. So anyway. So I've actually seen ensheathment. I've got some videos of ensheathment on a cape and on cephalotus and Dionaea, and it's always the same yellow, you know, sort of almost seemingly fluorescent, but it's not fluorescent. I've tested it. Sort of generic ectotrophic mycorrhizal ensheathment sort of thing. So, you know, and I think I've put some of those online, so you can hunt those down. Online on my channel sort of thing. But yeah, so I've already seen them, so I know it's bullshit, but I'm just hopefully letting the rest of the world catch up. But I've got to learn how to grow liverworts and why, you know. And I think that's going to be the breakthrough point for not just CPs, CB-related weeds, but a whole great big tranche of botany. And there'll be a whole book. I said there'll be a whole books of. I'm thinking of writing one called Plants of Putrefaction. So I thought that was a good title, actually, Plants of Putrefaction. So. It was, you know, it has you scratching, but then again, you know, all those bottles I had over there, you know, they're all sort of putrefacted bottles, and they've got the organism growing in it, you see, and stink to high heavens or something. I'm thinking, well, you know, there's got to be a connection there somehow, and that's why I think we're going to get. The connection is going to be through the liverworts, so we'll see how we go. But as I said, as we learned here, basically got to allow it to be flashed through by the rain, and then we'll put some plants in it and see what happens. You know, we might get a few surprises, like we got with this one. You know, it's easier than you think it is. So yeah, slowly turning the corner and getting to the end of the journey. But as I said, I think the key end point of the journey is you know, understanding how moss grows, how liverworts are related to moss growing, and so on and so forth, how it's all related. If you notice, this thing now is starting to go to that red stage. So is it the cold night air, or is there something else going on? As I said, the organism seems to grow best at 28 degrees or above. So, you know, it's being like, and for every 10 degrees rise or decrease in temperature, you either double the reaction rate or you half the reaction rate. So at 18 degrees, you halve the reaction rate. At 8 degrees, you what is a quarter the rate? Quarter the rate, is that right? Yeah, is that right? Yeah, 2, 4, 8, 16. Yeah, that way. So if you go down another 10 degrees to -2, yeah, you slow it even more, sort of thing, and vice versa when you increase the temperature. Okay, over and out for now, I think. So yeah, it works in both directions, and then you've got to think whether it's a endothermic or exothermic reaction, blah blah blah, so on.